My name is Linda Harper. 4 years now, I have been the invisible force behind HarperTech, a technology company that many regard as an industry leader, though few know who's truly steering the ship. I am its founder, its CEO, and yet you won't find my face in any media outlet, my voice on any public stage. I have chosen to remain anonymous, cloaked in shadows, while the world praises the company's success. This secret isn't just a preference, it's a necessity. Because sometimes the truth can be a weapon, and I'm all too aware of how dangerous it can be to be known. The less the world knows about me, the more control I have over my own story. That's the paradox of power, wielded best from behind the scenes. At home, the reality is starkly different. My husband, Mark, a man I once admired, sees me only as a woman without a job, a failure in his eyes. Every week, at gatherings with his close-knit circle of friends, he mocks me openly, laughing about my unemployment, questioning my worth with casual cruelty. They don't know that the very company Mark boasts about working for is mine, that I am the woman who built it from the ground up. It's a bitter irony. Mark's arrogance blinds him to the truth. He parades around, unaware of the power I hold quietly behind locked doors. I watch him, smiling when I must, waiting for the right moment to step out of the shadows. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought silently, in late nights spent alone behind screens, compiling data and plotting a path forward. I have lived this double life so long that it's almost second nature, the shy wife at parties, the ruthless CEO in the boardroom. I will not let their mockery define me. I have plans, and when the time comes, I will reveal the truth in a way no one can ignore. Until then, I remain patient, steady, a quiet storm gathering strength beneath the surface. The evening air was thick with laughter, the kind that filled the large, tastefully decorated living room where Mark's friends gathered. The soft hum of jazz music played in the background, but I barely noticed it. I clutched my wine glass, my fingers tight around the stem, more a prop than a comfort. Mark was in his element, boisterous, confident, oblivious to the quiet storm simmering just beneath my skin. When he caught my eye, there was that sneer again, a mix of amusement and contempt. "And there's Linda," he announced, raising his glass with exaggerated flourish. Still unemployed, still clueless. Honestly, I don't know how she passes her days. Laughter erupted around the room. Some faces were amused, others simply nodding along, feeding his ego. I forced myself to smile, the practiced smile of someone who's been on the receiving end of this many times. He went further, boasting about his close relationship with Tao, his secretary. "She's smart, efficient, definitely someone who keeps me on track," he said, eyes gleaming with pride. Little did he know I had already gathered every detail of his infidelity and deceit. As their voices rose, I sank into silence. My mind raced, sorting through memories, facts, evidence. I wasn't just the woman they mocked, I was the CEO, the one holding the keys to their future. That night, beneath the laughter and the wine, I made a silent vow. I would rewrite this story. They would see me, not the powerless wife, but the woman who holds the power. The days after the party blurred into nights of quiet determination. I knew that to fight Mark and his circle, I needed more than words, I needed proof. Hard evidence that would expose their lies, their greed, their betrayal of HarperTech. I retreated into the world behind screens and numbers where the company's secrets lived. Access was not a problem, I held the keys. Email trails, financial statements, internal memos. Every document became a piece of the puzzle. Mark thought he was clever, hiding his embezzlement and backdoor deals in layers of bureaucracy and secrecy. But arrogance is a weakness. His careless boasts to friends, his unguarded conversations, the digital footprints left behind, they all added up. Each night, I cataloged his transactions, cross-referenced suspicious accounts, and discreetly recorded incriminating conversations. I observed patterns that revealed the misuse of company funds, manipulation of insider information, and the cozy relationships that skirted legality. More than that, I tracked the complicity of his friends, men who had turned my company into their personal playground. It was a web of deceit, but it was unraveling. And I was ready to pull the threads. This wasn't just a fight for my dignity, it was a battle for the soul of HarperTech. Early one morning, I stepped into HarperTech's headquarters wearing a simple blouse and a nervous smile. I was no longer the hidden CEO, I was Emily Collins, an eager applicant seeking a fresh start. No one recognized me, and that was the point. The reception buzzed with a hurried energy, but the air felt cold, distant. As I waited for my interview, I watched employees pass by, some barely acknowledging me, others exchanging whispered remarks. The interview panel was worse. I sat across from Mark and his cronies, their eyes cold and dismissive. Their questions were perfunctory, lacking any real interest or respect. I caught Mark's smirk when I stumbled on a question, a silent signal to the others that I was unworthy. The dismissiveness, the casual cruelty was heartbreaking. This wasn't just a flawed hiring process, it was a reflection of a toxic culture perpetuated from the top down. Beneath my calm exterior, my resolve steeled. This company needed more than just a CEO, it needed a revolution. After the interview, I slipped away to change into something more fitting, my CEO badge pinned firmly on my lapel, the symbol of authority I rarely displayed publicly. The boardroom smelled of stale coffee and arrogance. Mark and his usual circle lounged around the long mahogany table, their voices heavy with condescension as they dissected my interview performance, or rather, their perceived victory over me. I stood silently by the door for a moment, absorbing the scene, the smug grins, the subtle gestures mocking Emily, and the complete absence of respect. They saw me as nothing more than a failed woman, an easy target. Then I stepped forward, my heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. The room fell into a sudden hush, the casual chatter dissipating like smoke. Mark turned, eyes narrowing, expecting a weak apology or a quick exit. Instead, I held up my ID badge, the embossed letters gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. Linda Harper, CEO, HarperTech. "I'm Linda Harper," I said, voice calm but resolute. "CEO of HarperTech." The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Their faces paled, jaws slackened, and a flicker of panic flashed across Mark's eyes, the arrogant mask cracking for the first time. "You've all underestimated me," I continued, stepping into the room fully now, owning my space. "For years, I've watched as you belittled me, doubted me, and exploited this company. Today, that ends." Mark opened his mouth, but no words came. His friends exchanged uneasy glances, the power dynamic shifting irrevocably. I saw the betrayal in their eyes, not just at me, but at their own reckless arrogance that had blinded them to the truth. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I was the storm breaking through the calm, the force they hadn't prepared for. The room was still heavy with silence after my revelation. Mark's friends looked at me with a mixture of shock and resentment, but I could see the fear flickering just beneath their bravado. This was their moment of reckoning. I took a deep breath, steadying the calm storm inside me. "Mark," I said, fixing my gaze on him, "you and your friends have violated every principle this company stands for. Embezzlement, abuse of power, exploitation of insider information, I have every piece of evidence to prove it." He laughed nervously, trying to dismiss the gravity, but it came out hollow, forced. "You're bluffing." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "These are the audited reports, the bank statements, the emails you thought you deleted. This isn't a game anymore." The room tensed as I laid out the facts one by one. Inflated expenses, secret accounts, unethical dealings, all the ways they had fed off the company like parasites. Mark's face twisted in anger, then desperation. "You think you can ruin me?" "No," I replied firmly. "I'm here to save HarperTech from you." Turning to the rest of the group, I announced, "Effective immediately, you are all terminated. You will have no access to company resources, and legal proceedings will begin within 48 hours. Mark's friends exchanged glances, some shaking with rage, others silent with shock. Power they once wielded had slipped through their fingers. Before they could react, I added, "I have submitted all evidence to the authorities. Any attempts to interfere with company operations will be met with legal action." Mark clenched his fists, eyes burning. "You're destroying lives." "No," I said quietly. "I'm restoring justice." As they gathered their things in stunned silence, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. This battle was far from over, but the first blow had been struck. I was no longer the powerless woman they had mocked. I was the force they had to reckon with. The morning sun cast long shadows across my corner office, illuminating the sprawling cityscape of New York below. Yet, despite the beauty outside, my mind was locked onto the battlefield inside HarperTech. Firing Mark and his cronies was only the beginning. The real war was just starting. I tapped a command on my phone, summoning the company's top legal counsel and security director into the room. Their faces were sharp, alert, ready for what was coming next. "First," I said, voice steady but commanding, "activate every non-compete and confidentiality clause we have on file. Send formal notices to Mark, Tao, and the rest, informing them of their termination and legal restrictions." The legal team nodded, pulling out documents and drafting letters on the spot. The weight of the situation pressed down on me. These people had betrayed everything HarperTech stood for, and I was here to make sure they couldn't sabotage what I had rebuilt. Next, I turned to security. Change all building access codes. Mark's company email and accounts are to be deactivated immediately. Arrange for discreet removal of his personal effects. He's to be relocated to a temporary residence outside company premises. I knew this move was necessary, not just practical, but symbolic. Mark's grip on the company was severed. No more sneering in boardrooms, no more whispered deals behind closed doors. But I also knew retaliation was inevitable. Mark would try to smear me in the media, whisper doubts to clients and investors. So I ordered our communications team to draft a carefully worded announcement. Transparency and professionalism had to be our shield. Within hours, an email went out to every client, partner, and shareholder. HarperTech remains steadfast in its commitment to innovation, integrity, and transparency. Effective immediately, Linda Harper resumes her role as CEO with full authority. The recent leadership changes were necessary to protect the company's core values and future growth. We appreciate your continued trust and support. I read the message over and over. It was firm, clear, and left no room for speculation. Later that afternoon, as I stood by the window watching the city pulse below, a quiet resolve settled in me. This was not just about HarperTech. It was about reclaiming control, about proving that strength comes from truth and resilience. Mark and his friends had underestimated me. They didn't realize I was already several steps ahead, preparing my next move. In this high-stakes game of corporate power, I wasn't just a player, I was the one setting the rules. Conference room buzzed with murmurs and shifting chairs as employees gathered, curiosity and uncertainty hanging in the air. This was more than a routine meeting. It was the moment I would reveal not just my identity, but the future I envisioned for HarperTech. I stood at the front, the weight of the room settling on my shoulders. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. "Good morning, everyone," I began, my voice steady but warm. "For those who don't know me, my name is Linda Harper. I am the founder and CEO of HarperTech." A ripple of surprise swept through the room, whispers of disbelief, some skeptical glances. But I held their attention. For years, I've watched this company grow, face challenges, and overcome obstacles. But recently, it has suffered under leadership that betrayed its values. I'm here to change that. I paused, letting the words sink in. Today marks a new beginning. One where transparency, respect, and fairness aren't just words, but the foundation of everything we do. Faces in the crowd softened, hope flickered in tired eyes. I want each of you to know that your voices matter, that your hard work does not go unnoticed. Together, we will rebuild HarperTech into the company it deserves to be. Questions followed, honest, sometimes tough, but rooted in a shared desire to move forward. By the time the meeting ended, the atmosphere had shifted. Where there had been doubt, now there was cautious optimism. Walking out, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This company was more than just my legacy, it was ours to shape. The war was far from over. Just as I had anticipated, Mark refused to go quietly. Within days of his termination, the whispers began, quiet at first, like the faint rustle of leaves before a storm. Then, the storm came crashing. My phone vibrated incessantly, emails flooded in, some from concerned clients, others from partners seeking reassurance. Rumors had already started to take root, spreading like wildfire through the corridors of the tech industry. Mark was on a mission to undermine everything I had worked so hard to build. I watched as false narratives took shape, stories questioning my leadership, insinuations that HarperTech was unstable, whispers that the board was divided and uncertain about the future. One afternoon, during a tense meeting with my communications and legal teams, I laid it out clearly. "We can't afford to be reactive," I said, my voice steady but resolute. "We have to be proactive, transparent, and above all, unwavering. Every client, partner, and shareholder deserves the truth, and they deserve to hear it from us first." We crafted a detailed communication strategy, sending out heartfelt letters to every key client and partner, reaffirming HarperTech's commitment to innovation, integrity, and service. HarperTech's leadership change was necessary to protect the company's values and ensure long-term growth. We remain committed to you and will continue to deliver excellence without compromise. Behind the scenes, our legal team prepared for action. Every defamatory call, every false claim made by Mark would be met with swift and decisive legal response. Mark's tactics escalated. I learned he had been personally calling some of our biggest clients, spreading lies and attempting to poach business. But the strength of our relationships, built on years of trust and transparency, held firm. I spent late nights on calls with clients, reassuring them, listening to their concerns, and reminding them of the HarperTech vision we shared. Their faith in me and in the company was a powerful shield. Each day, I felt the weight of responsibility deepen, but also the fierce determination to protect not just a company, but the livelihoods and dreams of everyone who depended on it. Mark's attempts to destabilize us only made our resolve stronger. I wasn't just fighting for HarperTech's future, I was fighting for justice, for truth, and for the integrity of everything I had built from the ground up. The days following the smear campaign felt like a relentless storm battering the company's windows, but inside HarperTech, a quiet revolution was underway. I was determined that this moment wouldn't just be about survival, it would be about transformation. I called an emergency meeting with my executive team, the faces familiar but now tinged with new hope. We need to rebuild trust from the ground up. That starts with leadership, transparency, and accountability. We began by drafting and implementing strict new ethical guidelines, policies that left no room for ambiguity. No more shortcuts, no more secret deals. Every employee, from interns to executives, would be held to the same standard. I personally oversaw the creation of a whistleblower system, anonymous, secure, so that no one would ever feel powerless or silenced. At the same time, I coordinated closely with the authorities. I provided them with the evidence I had gathered against Mark and his group, working hand in hand to ensure that justice would be served beyond just the walls of HarperTech. Throughout this process, I spent long hours in the office, not just managing crises, but engaging directly with teams. I listened to their frustrations, their fears, and their hopes. I wanted them to see that I wasn't just a distant CEO, I was part of the family. Slowly, the atmosphere began to shift. The toxic shadows that had clouded the company started to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and unity. By enforcing these policies and cooperating with law enforcement, we sent a clear message. HarperTech was a company built on integrity, and we would protect that at any cost. As I watched my team grow stronger, more committed, I felt a deep sense of pride. This was more than a turnaround, it was a rebirth. And I knew that the hardest battles were behind us, while the greatest victories were still ahead. The moment I stepped back into the executive suite after Mark and his cohorts were dismissed, I knew the real work was just beginning. It wasn't enough to remove toxic elements, I needed to rebuild the very foundation of HarperTech. 4 days, I pored over personnel files, performance reviews, and internal reports. Some leaders had been blinded by loyalty to Mark. Others had quietly supported the toxic culture out of fear or complacency. But amid the wreckage, I also found gems, talented, principled employees overlooked and undervalued. With a firm yet empathetic approach, I initiated individual meetings with the leadership team. I looked them in the eye and said, "We're going to create something different here. If you're with me, we move forward together. If not, I'll understand." Several chose to leave, but others stayed, those who wanted to be part of a company reborn. Next came recruitment. I personally interviewed dozens of candidates, from fresh graduates to seasoned executives, searching for more than just skills. I wanted integrity, passion, and a shared vision for HarperTech's future. One memorable interview was with Maya, a young project manager whose calm confidence and innovative ideas immediately impressed me. She became a symbol of the new HarperTech, bright, fearless, and ready to take risks the right way. Inside the company, I launched open forums and town halls, inviting employees at all levels to speak openly. I sat among them, listened to their frustrations, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. There was skepticism at first. Decades of distrust don't disappear overnight, but gradually trust grew. People started collaborating across departments, sharing ideas freely, and celebrating each other's successes. One afternoon, I walked past a team of developers animatedly debating the next product feature. Their energy was contagious, reminding me why I had started HarperTech in the first place. Culture was changing, and with it, the soul of the company. HarperTech was no longer just a tech firm, it was a community, a family. Months stretched into a year, and the transformation of HarperTech was visible not only inside the office but in the numbers on the financial statements. Quarterly reports showed steady growth, revenues climbing, client retention improving, and new partnerships forming. Investors, once wary, now expressed renewed confidence in the company's direction. I remember sitting in the boardroom as the CFO shared the latest figures. The room, once tense with uncertainty, erupted in applause. But for me, the triumph was deeper than profits. It was about the story behind those numbers, the late nights my team spent brainstorming solutions, the tough conversations, the commitment to ethics and transparency that had become HarperTech's backbone. The media picked up on the turnaround story. Articles and interviews painted me as a beacon of resilience and smart leadership, especially as a woman leading in the competitive tech world. But beyond the spotlight, my focus remained on the everyday heroes inside the company. I made it a point to celebrate milestones, whether it was launching a new product line or a team hitting a difficult deadline. I wanted every employee to know their hard work mattered and that they were part of something bigger. One evening, during an informal gathering in the office lounge, a junior engineer shared how proud she was to work at HarperTech now. She said, "It feels like we're building something real, not just products, but a legacy." That legacy was mine to nurture and protect. The battles had been hard, the sacrifices many. But HarperTech was no longer defined by its past failures or betrayals. It was a symbol of strength, resilience, and hope. And I was honored to lead it into a brighter future. As I sit here now, looking out over the city skyline from my office, I feel a profound sense of peace, a sharp contrast to the storm that once threatened to consume everything I'd built. When I first started HarperTech, I had a simple dream: to create a company grounded in innovation, integrity, and respect. What I didn't expect was the battle I would have to fight, not just in the marketplace, but within my own home. Betrayal cuts deep, shakes your foundation, and tests your spirit. But it also teaches you something invaluable about resilience and truth. I could have let the pain and deception break me. Instead, I chose to rise. to reclaim my power not through revenge but through justice, transparency, and heart. There were moments of doubt, moments when giving up seemed easier. But every challenge became a lesson, every setback a stepping stone. No, I don't regret what I've done. Not the confrontations, not the hard decisions, not the nights spent questioning myself. 'Cause these experiences forged a stronger, wiser leader. I've learned that leadership isn't about control or ego. HarperTech's future is brighter than ever. We're more than just a company. We're a community united by trust and shared purpose. And I will keep building on this foundation, one day, one decision, one honest conversation at a time. Because this isn't just my story. It's a story of perseverance, hope, and the unbreakable human spirit. And it's only just beginning. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep creating valuable content just for you. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when new videos drop, giving you exclusive access to exciting stories, tips, and insights. So go ahead, click that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our amazing community. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to see you in the next video.